Oh my goodness, Joe Rogan just said now he feels suspicious about the Charlie Kirk case after these body language experts exposed what really went down during that viral hug between Erika Kirk and JD Vance. Now you've probably seen that hug, you know the one I'm talking about. Erika Kirk and JD Vance on stage, and everyone's been arguing about whether it crossed a line or not. Well, 3 professional body language experts broke down every single second of that interaction. And what did they find? Will entirely change your path on this situation. It's making even Joe Rogan question what's really going on here. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what these experts saw that most people missed. You'll understand why this 3-second hug has everyone talking. And honestly, I will also cover the inappropriate dress Erika was caught wearing just a month after her husband passed. So stick till the end. Now, without wasting time, let's get into it. Okay, so first, let me give you the basic facts, because if you don't know the background, none of this is going to make sense. This hug happened on October 29 at a Turning Point USA event. Erika Kirk was there to introduce JD Vance for a speech. Now, here's the thing. This was only a few weeks after Charlie Kirk died on September 10th, so Erika is still a very recent widow at this point. Before JD even came on stage, Erika said something that made people's eyebrows go up. She said nobody could ever replace her husband. But then she added that JD Vance reminded her a lot of him. That comment alone had people talking. Then JD walks out. They hug, and the internet absolutely lost its mind. Here's what's wild though. Most people never actually watched the video. Instead, 2 specific photos started spreading everywhere. And in those photos, you can clearly see Erika's hand on the back of JD's head. That single image turned into thousands of arguments online. But professional body language analysts don't work with frozen pictures. They need to see the actual movement, the timing, the context. So that's exactly what they did. And I've got to tell you, what they found is pretty interesting. Let's start with the biggest issue here. And honestly, this is something that trips people up all the time when stuff goes viral. Jesus Enrique Rosas is a well-known body language expert. People call him the body language guy. And when everyone started sending him requests to analyze this hug, he made an important point right at the start.
We're sharing these 2 pictures, and again, this is a basic principle not only in the body language guy but for life. When you're going to analyze anything, if you want to analyze the behavior or the body language of any person, if you have access to video, it's much better to go for the video itself.
He said that the whole controversy was made way bigger because people were sharing still images instead of the actual video. And look, I get it. A photo is easier to share on Twitter or Instagram. But here's the problem. When you freeze a moment in time, it looks way more dramatic than it actually was. Those 2 photos that went viral, they made it seem like Erika had her hand on JD's head for a long time. Like it was this extended, intimate moment. But when you actually watch the video, the entire hug lasted less than 3 seconds. 3 seconds. That's barely enough time to blink. But even though it was quick, those 3 seconds showed something that made experts uncomfortable. And I mean multiple experts, not just one person with an opinion. Alright, so let's talk about what Jesus Enrique Rosas actually saw when he analyzed the real video.
It's an endearing gesture and like a protective gesture, and some could say even a possessive gesture. I don't know what to tell you here, but I'm going to tell you that there's a very good test. Maybe you have, doubts about this. Maybe you feel okay or not okay about this. Maybe you're a woman and you feel that you're okay with this, that this is no big deal. And just my question is that what would happen if another woman does this to your husband?
He pointed out that during the hug, Erika had one hand on JD's back, and that part, totally normal. That's what you'd expect in any professional hug, nothing weird there. But then there's the other hand, the one that went to the back of JD's head. And Rosas described this gesture as endearing, protective, or even possessive. Those are his exact words. Now here's where it gets interesting. He asked his viewers to do a simple test. He said, "How would you feel if another woman did this to your husband or boyfriend?" Just imagine that scenario for a second. Would you be cool with it, or would you feel like something was off? And the responses he got were pretty telling. A lot of people, especially women from Latin America who follow his channel, said the same thing. They said the hand on the back was fine, no problem there. But the moment that hand moved to his hair, that crossed a boundary. I mean, think about it. When do you touch someone's hair? Usually it's people you're really close to, right? Your partner, your kids, maybe a very close friend. It's an intimate gesture. So doing that to a married man you're not related to, yeah, people noticed. But wait, because we're not done yet. A second expert decided to look at this hug, and he went even deeper into the details. His name is Spidey, and he runs a YouTube channel called The Behavioral Arts. This guy analyzes body language for a living, so he knows what to look for.
The moment that she goes to hug him, we see her right shoulder move upwards like this into the hug. In his best-selling book, What Everybody Is Saying, former FBI agent and world-renowned interrogation and body language expert Joe Navarro, who's been on the channel before, talks a lot about gravity-defying gestures. This is any time where we see gestures in the body that move upwards while someone's communicating. And these are a very good sign of positive feelings. When we're feeling good, we go upwards with our body language. It's even in the language, right? I'm jumping for joy. I'm in heaven. I'm on cloud 9. Whereas with negative feelings, the opposite applies as well. And it's in the language once again. I'm feeling down. I'm feeling low. Things close in downwards. And the research supports this as well.
Spidey noticed something really specific about Erika's movements. He saw that her right shoulder moved upward as she went into the hug. He calls this a gravity-defying gesture. And according to him, when someone's shoulder lifts like that, it shows genuine positive feelings. It means you're fully immersed in the moment. But here's the part that really caught his attention, the hand on the head. He pointed out that this wasn't just a quick touch, it was full palm contact. Her whole hand was on his head, and Spidey made it clear. This type of touch is usually reserved for specific relationships. We're talking very close friends, intimate partners, or situations where you're emotionally comforting someone. It's not something you typically do in a professional setting. So already we've got 2 experts saying the same thing. This wasn't your standard, good to see you hug. There was more going on physically, even if it was just for a couple seconds. Now, let's flip the script and look at JD Vance's side of this interaction. Because body language works both ways, right?
Hand up, we see something with him. We see his right hand kind of tapping her like this on the back. It's not a rubbing, it's not a squeezing, it's this tap. So tapping in almost any scenario suggests more of a friendly relationship between 2 individuals. I don't even need to tell you this. Think about any hug where instead of holding the person like this, you're just kind of tapping. This is a very friendly kind of gesture. It does contrast in this case with the fact that his left hand is flat against her lower back. And I think what's happening here is he's noticing the way this hug might come off. JD Vance is quite aware of public opinion and what people think of him. He pays attention to it, and he kind of responds in subtle ways. For example, just this Halloween, he chose to dress up as a meme of his that's circulating out there as a joke. And this kind of lets me know that although he can laugh about it, he's aware of the public and what they think.
Spidey noticed something interesting about how JD responded during this hug. First off, there's what he calls pelvic distancing. Basically, JD's lower body stayed further back. He wasn't leaning all the way in. His hips stayed at a distance. Then there's what his hands were doing. JD's right hand did this tapping motion on Erika's back. Now, a tap is very different from a rub or a squeeze. A tap is friendly, but not intimate. It's the kind of thing you do when you're being polite, but keeping some emotional distance. And here's the really telling part. JD was the first one to break away from the hug. He looked away first. He created the separation. Spidey's interpretation? JD was aware of how this might look. He was managing the situation. It's like he knew people were watching, and he didn't want it to seem like anything more than a professional greeting. His body language was basically saying, let's keep this brief and appropriate. So you've got Erika leaning in with intimate gestures, and JD pulling back with distancing moves. That's an interesting dynamic, don't you think? Okay, so at this point, we've heard from 2 male analysts. But a third expert jumped into the conversation, and her take added even more context.
Gotten several requests to decode this video with Erika Kirk and JD Vance. Let's look at JD Vance's side of the hug first. He gives a tight hug with a pat on the back. So some people often pat people on the back. That's just kind of how they manage a longer hug. And for some people, that patting on the back is what they do to comfort someone else. He also rests his hands after the hug for a second on her waist area, which can be a sign of affection and or romantic interest. It's the move to slide her hands up and grasp and cradle his head that is getting so much attention. This is a move that we women do when we are in a deep kiss, which is why it looks so so very intimate. Erika then ends her hug by grasping his shoulders, which is a sign of affection and closeness. That said, grief can do really wonky things to humans, but this is wonky for sure. I'm Annie Sarnblad, and I teach microexpressions and all things nonverbal.
Annie Sarnblad is another body language specialist, and she focuses a lot on microexpressions. When she saw this hug, she immediately noticed the hand movement. She said something that really puts it into perspective. She pointed out that sliding your hands up to grasp someone's head and hold it, that's a move women make during a deep kiss. Like, that's the exact motion. When you're kissing someone romantically, you reach up and cradle their head just like that. And that's why it looks so intimate to people watching. Even if nothing else is happening, your brain recognizes that gesture. It's tied to romantic behavior. Annie also noticed that after the hug, JD's hands briefly rested on Erika's waist area. Now, hands on the waist can signal affection. It can also signal romantic interest, depending on the context. Her final thought? She said grief can definitely make people act in unusual ways. When you lose someone, your behavior might not follow normal social rules. But even considering that, she called this interaction wonky. And honestly, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. Now, let's talk about the words that came before the hug, because this is where things get even more interesting from a psychological perspective. Remember what Erika said? She told the crowd that nobody could replace her husband, but JD Vance had a lot of similarities to him. But here's what the analysts picked up on. She didn't say, JD reminds me of Charlie. She said, JD reminds me of my husband. Do you see the difference? By using the phrase my husband instead of Charlie's actual name, she framed the entire comparison in spousal terms. She wasn't comparing them as political figures or friends. She was comparing them as husband material. And whether she meant to do that or not, it plants a suggestion in everyone's mind. It makes people think about JD in a relationship context, not just a professional one. That's some pretty powerful psychological framing right there. So when the hug happened right after that comment, people's brains were already primed to see it through a romantic lens. The words set up the interpretation before the physical contact even happened. And oh boy, did the public have opinions about this.
The way Erika Kirk hugged JD Vance on the stage the other night at that Turning Point event was given very cringy and very disrespectful. That is not the way you hug a married man. I don't care what nobody says. Y'all, in her speech, as she's introducing him, she says, and I quote, "No one will ever replace my husband, but JD Vance has a lot of similarities." And then when this man comes on stage, she literally gives him this very intimate and passionate hug, as though her hands are all in the back of his head. Baby, the only thing that was missing was the kiss to seal the deal. Do you hear me? And then when JD Vance gets on the stage and starts his speech, honey, I don't know if the man was soft launching his divorce or what. He sits up there and say how he hoped that his wife changed her religion to Christianity because of what? Because of what? So now you're saying you want a Christian woman like Erika? I don't know, y'all. I know this lady is a grieving widow and her husband just passed away and all this other stuff, but every time that lady open her mouth, she gets cringy, she gets more darker, her aura is off, she's just weird as hell. I don't know, y'all. What are your thoughts? What are your opinions? But that was crazy.
People online were not holding back. One person made a TikTok calling the hug cringy and disrespectful. She said that's not how you hug a married man, period. She even joked that the only thing missing was a kiss to seal the deal. And look, I'm just gonna say it, a lot of people felt the same way. The comment sections were full of people saying this crossed the line, that it was inappropriate for a recent widow to be that physically affectionate with a married VP. But then something else happened that made people even more suspicious. Right after this event, JD Vance gave a speech where he publicly said he hopes his wife Usha will eventually convert to Christianity. Now, maybe that was just a random comment about his personal beliefs, but the timing, it felt weird to a lot of people. Like, you just had this intimate-looking hug with another woman, and now you're publicly talking about your wife's religion? People started connecting dots. And fair or not, once the internet starts connecting dots, theories start flying everywhere. And that brings us to Joe Rogan, because when Joe starts questioning something, millions of people start paying attention.
I don't necessarily think they know what's going on yet. There's a lot of weird shit going on with this.
I know.
First of all, there was that one guy who was the decoy. All right, so you got this guy who's an older guy who starts yelling out. Didn't he take his pants down? Took his pants down? This guy was at 9/11. He was at the Boston bombings.
All the hits.
He called in a fake bomb at another place. And then he did this at this thing. Right after, so somehow or another, this guy has the state of mind that the moment someone gets shot, he yells out and says, I did it, and takes his pants down or something like that. I don't know.
And a guy wrote, this guy got what he deserved. No, he didn't. He had open debates. That takes courage. So if you didn't agree with them, you could come and speak. What's wrong with that?
On his podcast, Joe said there's a lot of weird stuff going on with the whole Charlie Kirk case. He wasn't just talking about the hug, he was talking about the bigger picture. Joe mentioned this guy who showed up at the scene, acting as a decoy, and apparently, this same guy has been present at other major incidents. We're talking 9/11, the Boston Marathon bombing, and now this. He even called in a fake bomb threat at another location at some point. Joe's point was simple: things aren't adding up. There are too many strange coincidences, too many weird details that don't make sense, and he's not afraid to say out loud that something feels off. Now, I'm not here to push conspiracy theories, but when someone like Joe Rogan, who has one of the biggest podcasts in the world, says he feels suspicious about something, yeah, people listen, and it adds fuel to a fire that was already burning pretty hot. So let's circle back to Jesus Enrique Rosas one more time, because he had some final thoughts that are worth hearing.
Let's say for a minute, Twilight Zone, hypothetical scenario. If Erika Kirk and JD Vance had an affair or something like that, let's make a Netflix special documentary about that, 6-part documentary. Do you really think they would be as obvious in front of everyone? Do you think that they would be a bit more careful being, I don't know, hypothetical scenario, of course, this is not happening. It's obviously not happening because they wouldn't have any sort of clue or showing any sort of clue out there. But again, this is it's outrageous how this has gotten out of control, and mainly this is this most important part, how these clickbaiters make sure to use only images to make their point about the hug between JD Vance and Erika Kirk. That is the sole reason. They are making sure to, have some kind of gotcha moment. Oh, this is inappropriate. And, in some way connect this that Erika had something to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination, which is even more outrageous.
Rosas actually pushed back pretty hard against some of the conspiracy theories floating around. He called it outrageous that people were suggesting this hug proved there was a secret affair happening. His logic, if something inappropriate was actually going on between these two people, they would be way more careful in public. They wouldn't be hugging like that on stage in front of cameras and hundreds of people. That would be incredibly stupid, and these are not stupid people. He argued that people were taking misleading images and building entire stories around them. That clickbait was driving the narrative more than facts. But even with all that said, even Rosas admitted the hand on the head was unusual. He acknowledged that it's a gesture that made people uncomfortable because it reads as intimate. So his final take was basically, is this proof of an affair? Is it weird and worth discussing? Yes. And honestly, I think that's probably the most balanced way to look at it. Now, I don't know. Maybe Erika was just seeking comfort. Maybe she wasn't thinking about how it would look. Maybe JD was being kind to a grieving widow, and it got captured from the wrong angle. Or maybe the experts are right, and this was objectively more intimate than it should have been. I can't tell you which one is true. But what I can tell you is this: body language doesn't lie. Your body shows what you're really feeling, even when your words don't. And according to 3 separate professionals who do this for a living, that hug showed more warmth and intimacy than you'd expect between a recent widow and a married vice president. Add in Joe Rogan questioning the entire case, and you've got a situation where people are going to keep asking questions. Whether those questions have real answers or not, that's something we'll have to wait and see. So what do you think after hearing what all these experts found? Was this just an awkward moment that got blown way out of proportion because of a couple of photos? Are people reading too much into a simple hug between 2 people in politics? Or did these body language experts catch something real? Something that shows this interaction was more intimate than it should have been? And hey, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.